Joining us on the line now, as she does often when we're lucky, is KT McFarland, National Security Analyst for the Fox News Channel. Good morning to you, KT.
Good morning.
Well, yesterday at this time, we were talking about how it didn't look real good for Benjamin Netanyahu. We thought that the voter turnout was low, and a lot of people felt like he might not win re-election, but he has won re-election handily as the last 24 hours have evolved. So what does this mean?
Well, if you look at it from the bigger perspective, the president and the Obama administration threw everything they had against Bibi Netanyahu. You know, they had their advisors went, and maybe they even funneled money to Netanyahu's opponents. And even with all the trash talk and everything else, Netanyahu managed to win. So now I think the next move is up to the president. Is he going to sort of swallow his pride and say, okay, the Israeli-American relationship is really important. How are we going to work together to do this? Or is he going to sort of pout and continue to freeze out Israel?
Well, one of the things that has happened is that just before the election took place, Benjamin Netanyahu said, look, the two-state solution is not going to work, and he sort of reversed his position that he had held for the last couple of years that had been sort of the official policy that a two-state solution was possible and was the thing that we should be working toward. Now he says that's no longer the case. So what changes in that regard?
I look at the whole Middle East and say there are two big issues with Israel right now, two foreign policy, national security issues. And one is what to do about the Palestinians. Do you negotiate? Do you have some kind of an arrangement where there's a Palestinian state, there's an Israeli state, and they work in peace side by side? That negotiation has its own sort of path, shall we say, path to destruction, path to victory, path to no place. And that's what you're talking about. I think the more important thing and the more immediate thing and really the more significant thing for American foreign policy, for Israeli foreign policy, for world peace is what happens with Iran. And that's the thing that Netanyahu and his opponents all agreed on. Iran should not get nuclear weapons. The administration is about to do a deal with Iran, which in effect allows Iran to become a threshold nuclear state. The deal we were supposed to get with Iran was one where they dismantled their nuclear program, and in return they were accepted and welcomed into the world community, and the sanctions were lifted and their economy could boom. The deal we're likely to get is Iran gets all that, the economy booms, we lift the sanctions, but in exchange Iran unplugs its nuclear program for some period of time, but with no particular guarantee that they're going to replug, that they're not going to plug it in again whenever they feel like it.
And by the way, KT, as we're looking at this Iranian deal that seems to be in the making here, a disturbing story. I don't know if you saw it or not. It was on Greta Van Susteren last night. Catherine Herridge revealing that Iran and Hezbollah have been removed from the worldwide terror threat assessment, and many are speculating that this is some sort of quid pro quo to sort of send an olive branch to Iran. We're not going to call you terrorists anymore. Terrorists are terrorists, aren't they? Why would we remove them from the terror threat assessment?
Particularly when they were the all-star of terrorists. They were the leading state sponsor of terrorism throughout the world, not only in the Middle East but throughout the world. And to me, it, again, is probably another sign. Look, President Obama, from the very beginning of his administration, 5 minutes after taking the oath of office, made his outreach to Iran in his inaugural address, and he's been trying to reach out to Iran ever since. And I think he's concluded that the one thing he wants to do in foreign policy is to go to Tehran. He wants to be like Richard Nixon, going to China. He wants to be Barack Obama, opens the U.S. relationship to Iran, and thereby changes the world. Now, the deal is likely to be that if we get something with Iran, some kind of an agreement, or even if we don't get the agreement with Iran, it's not what Obama says it is. It's not what the mullahs say it is. It's what the other countries in the region say it is and how they act. The biggest threat to American peace and world peace is if the nuclear weapons go to the Middle East, if they're introduced into the Middle East. If Iran is thought to be a nuclear weapons state, other countries in the region will rush to have their own nuclear arsenals. And then you have the most dangerous weapons in the hands of the most unstable part of the world, whereas we've seen in the last couple of years, governments come and go and fall with great rapidity. That's the world that's more frightening, and I think that's the real legacy that Obama will give the world with his Iran deal, which is that Iran is going to be considered by its neighbors in the region as a threshold nuclear state, and they are already taking steps to have nuclear weapons of their own.
We learned finally yesterday that Secretary Clinton did not sign Form 109 when she departed the State Department, and apparently neither did Powell, neither did Rice. And according to the State Department spokesman, Jen Psaki, well, they sort of, are lackadaisical about enforcing the signing of that form, which is something they're looking into. Is this a thing?
It's not. It's a thing now, and it's going to be a bigger thing. People that I've talked to in the cyber world say that her servers have already been hacked into. Were hacked into several years ago. That somebody's got Hillary's missing emails. The missing emails about Benghazi. The missing emails that potentially link pay to play, where countries donated to the Clinton Foundation in hopes of getting good treatment from Secretary and potentially President Hillary Clinton. So that stuff is somewhere. We're not sure where it is yet, whether Anonymous has it or Lucifer or all of the various sort of black internet groups might have it, but it's going to end up coming out. So I think that it's very short-sighted of Secretary Clinton to say, well, I was never hacked, and I complied with the law, and I didn't have anything to do with that. And remember that Benghazi thing was all about a demonstration over an obscure YouTube video. All that will eventually come out. I think it comes out in dribbles and drabs, and it will be continuing to gnaw away at her credibility.
I wonder, KT, if you can just comment based on Hillary Clinton's behavior in the wake of this story, the reluctance to say anything. Finally, she gives the 20-minute press conference, which I don't know anybody who has rated that performance as a solid one. What does this say about her temperament as a leader, about her ability to be a diplomat on the world stage as our chief executive?
If somebody very smart in politics, and I'm not smart in politics, but if somebody very wise said to me, Hillary Clinton can't be beaten, but she can beat herself. And that's what it looks like she's doing. She doesn't look like she wants the job. She doesn't seem to have the fire in her belly. And there's a certain sense of entitlement, and I'm above it all, and how dare you ask me these questions, because after all, I'm Hillary Clinton.
Back to the document, though, the fact that some people are required to sign it and some people are not, that seems to be troublesome to me. I mean, who gets the pass and who doesn't?
Look, when Hillary Clinton was a junior lawyer on the Watergate Committee, she realized, as did many at the time, why did Nixon not destroy the tapes? If Nixon had destroyed the tapes, there would have never been the drive for impeachment. The evidence would have just not been there. And yet Nixon didn't destroy the tapes. Hillary learned the lesson. She destroyed the documents.
All right.
But the question is, are they really destroyed?
Yeah, that's a good question. All right. Well,
Thanks,
thank
KT.
you, KT. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.